Welcome to a story that will inspire you like nothing else. A story of struggle, belief, courage, and unstoppable dreams. This is real. Two broke friends couldn't pay rent. They had a wild idea: rent out air mattresses in their living room. They were laughed at, rejected over 1,000 times, drowning in debt, but they didn't give up. Today, that idea has changed the way the world travels. Millions sleep in Airbnb rentals every night, and the company is worth over $100 billion. If you listen closely, you will learn how to survive with no money, believe when no one supports you, turn rejection into power, and start from zero. And the best part, you will improve your English while being inspired. Let's begin.
It all started in a tiny, messy apartment in Los Angeles. Two friends, barely making ends meet, were staring at the pile of unpaid bills on their kitchen table. Rent was overdue, groceries were running low, and their bank accounts were nearly empty. Life wasn't going to wait, and neither could they. They were desperate. John and Mark had been best friends since college. They shared the same dreams of creating something extraordinary, but reality had been harsh. Both had tried different jobs: waiter, delivery driver, even a stint as a temp in an office, but nothing gave them the freedom they craved. Bills piled up, their parents worried, and friends stopped answering calls. Every day felt heavier than the last. One night, while lying on the single air mattress in their living room, John had an idea. It sounded ridiculous at first. "What if we rent this mattress out?" he asked, half joking. Mark laughed at him, imagining strangers hopping onto their lumpy air mattress, paying them for the privilege. But the more they talked, the crazier the idea seemed, and the more it started to make sense. They decided to test it. They set up a simple ad online: air mattress available for overnight stay-up, comfy, central location. The first responses were polite but skeptical. People were curious but hesitant. Many thought they were joking. Some even offered advice, like just get real jobs, or you'll get robbed. Every no stung, but it didn't stop them. They needed to survive, and survival sometimes meant embracing the absurd. The first night, their tiny living room had a stranger. Sleeping on the air mattress, John and Mark stayed awake, listening to every creak and groan, nervous and excited at the same time. When morning came, the guest left quietly, paying the agreed fee. It wasn't much, but it was something. And for the first time in months, John and Mark felt hope. As days passed, they refined their approach: clean sheets, warm blankets, and snacks for guests. They learned quickly that trust and small comforts mattered more than they had imagined. Each new booking was a little victory, each satisfied guest a small celebration. Slowly, their living room became more than just a place to sleep, became a symbol of their resilience and creativity. Despite the skepticism, despite the doubts of friends and family, the idea began to work. One mattress, two determined guys, and an unwavering belief in themselves. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't traditional, but it was theirs. And in that tiny apartment, amidst the clutter and bills, John and Mark realized something powerful. Sometimes, the craziest ideas are the ones that change everything. Little did they know that one air mattress was about to lead them to opportunities. Neither of them had ever imagined this was only the beginning. After the first few guests, John and Mark realized that their crazy idea could actually work. But survival alone wasn't enough. They wanted more. They wanted to turn their little air mattress experiment into something bigger. Yet, the road ahead wasn't easy. Friends still laughed at them, Family doubted them, and every rejection felt like a punch in the gut. One evening, after another long day of cleaning, booking, and managing their tiny apartment turned hostel, Mark sat down and said, "Maybe we're chasing a dream that's too big for us." John looked at him, tired but determined. "No," he replied, "it's not too big. We just have to believe. That's all." Belief became their fuel. It wasn't blind optimism. It was a conscious choice to see possibilities where others saw failure. Every no they received became a lesson, every mistake a guidepost. When a guest complained about a lumpy pillow or a noisy neighbor, they didn't despair. They adapted, they improved, they kept going. Slowly, the word spread. People weren't just booking for the novelty, they were booking because of the experience. John and Mark listened, learned, and refined everything. Cleanliness, friendliness. Small touches like fresh coffee in the morning. They treated their guests like royalty in a living room that had once seemed too small for dreams. But belief was tested more than once. One month, an unexpected repair bill hit them. The old water heater broke, the electricity flickered, and they wondered if they could survive. Friends offered sympathy, but no help. At that moment, belief was the only thing holding them together. "We've come too far to quit now," John said. Mark nodded, and together they figured out a plan, scraping together what little money they had, borrowing tools, and fixing the apartment themselves. That act of faith, the refusal to give up. Everything. Soon after, they got a major breakthrough. A local travel blogger featured their tiny living room in an article about quirky, budget-friendly stays. Bookings skyrocketed. Suddenly, the air mattress experiment was no longer just a desperate move. To survive it was a business in its own right. Through it all, John and Mark learned the true power of belief. Belief isn't magic, it's the willingness to keep moving, to take risks, and to trust yourself when the world doubts you. It's about showing up every day, even when hope seems small. The two friends realized that their biggest asset wasn't the mattress or even the money, they were each other, and their shared conviction that they could make the impossible possible by the end of the year. Their tiny apartment had become a hub of creativity and courage. They had turned rejection into motivation, failure into strategy, and doubt into fuel. What started as a single air mattress in a cramped living room had become a story of belief, resilience, and the extraordinary power of never giving up. And it all began with a simple decision to believe, even when no one else did. With momentum on their side, John and Mark realized their journey had reached a turning point. What started as a desperate attempt to pay rent had grown into something much bigger. People loved their unique approach, and word of mouth began to spread beyond their city. They weren't just two guys with an air mattress anymore, they were entrepreneurs with a vision. The first step was scaling. They knew they couldn't rely on a single mattress in a small apartment forever. They needed strategy, systems, and a plan to reach more people. Every evening, after their last guest left, John and Mark huddled over laptops, jotting down ideas, analyzing feedback, and dreaming about the future. They studied how other successful businesses operated, learning, marketing, customer service, and operations along the way. They started small, renting additional spaces, adding more air mattresses, and creating unique themes for guests. One room had a movie night vibe, complete with a projector and popcorn. Another had a cozy reading nook, perfect for travelers seeking quiet. Each detail was carefully designed to give guests a memorable experience. Slowly, their reputation, grew. But growth brought challenges. Managing multiple locations meant more responsibilities, unexpected problems, and financial risks. There were nights they stayed awake for hours, troubleshooting broken plumbing or dealing with cancellations. Friends who had mocked them earlier still doubted their choices, and competitors began to notice the buzz around their venture. But John and Mark remained focused. They remembered the lessons from their first air mattress: adaptability, creativity, and relentless belief. Marketing became their secret weapon. They harnessed social media, sharing stories of quirky guests, behind-the-scenes preparations, and personal experiences. People connected with them, not just the brand, but the story. Soon, travelers from other countries were seeking their unique stays. They began receiving emails from international media and travel influencers, eager to feature their story. By now, the small experiment had transformed into a recognizable brand. They launched a website, streamlined booking systems, and trained a small team to maintain the same level of care and personal touch that had made them famous. Their philosophy remained the same. Every guest mattered. Every detail counted, and no idea was too crazy if it created a memorable experience. John and Mark also gave back. They started mentoring aspiring entrepreneurs, sharing the story of the two broke guys with an air mattress. They emphasized the importance of perseverance, creativity, and belief, inspiring others to chase dreams despite uncertainty. Within a few years, their venture expanded to multiple cities, even crossing borders. Their brand symbolized more than comfort. It symbolized innovation, courage, and the power of daring to try. People didn't just stay on their air mattresses, they became part of a story, a journey of determination and imagination. What had begun as a simple solution to pay rent had evolved into a global phenomenon. And through it all, the two friends never lost sight of the lesson they had learned on that first night. When you believe in an idea and never give up, even the smallest beginnings can create extraordinary legacies. Just when John and Mark thought they had mastered the game, life threw them a curveball. Their brand, now expanding across multiple cities, was thriving, but success brought unexpected challenges. A major scandal erupted when a guest posted a negative review online. Though the complaint was minor and exaggerated, the story went viral, shaking customer trust and threatening bookings worldwide. At the same time, operational issues began to mount. With multiple locations, maintaining quality was difficult. Staff turnover was high, systems were stretched thin, and communication gaps caused mistakes. For the first time, John and Mark felt overwhelmed. The weight of the business they had built was heavier than they ever imagined. Late nights turned into sleepless weeks, as they tried to fix problems and calm nervous partners and anxious guests. Friends who had once doubted them now offered advice, but it often clashed with their vision. Some suggested downsizing, others wanted them to sell. Even family members questioned whether the dream was worth the stress. John and Mark faced a harsh reality. Success wasn't permanent, and failure could strike at any moment. Yet, in the darkest moments, they remembered their journey from that first air mattress. They had faced rejection, debt, and ridicule before and survived. They realized that the key to recovery was the same principle that had fueled them all along: belief, creativity, and action. Quitting was never an option. They started by addressing the scandal head-on. Instead of ignoring criticism, they acknowledged it publicly, apologized where necessary, and shared transparent updates about improvements. They personally reached out to affected guests, turning complaints into opportunities to show care and rebuild trust. Slowly, the negative buzz began to fade. Next, they tackled operational issues. They redesigned processes, introduced better training programs, and hired experienced managers who shared their vision. John and Mark focused on the essence of their brand, personalized experiences, and empowered their team to uphold that standard at every location. They also embraced technology, using smart systems to track bookings, maintenance, and feedback in real time. The comeback wasn't immediate, but it was steady. Gradually, bookings increased, positive reviews returned, and the media noticed that turnaround. Their brand evolved, stronger than ever, now celebrated not just for innovation, but for resilience. What had once seemed like a potential downfall became a defining moment of courage. Through the crisis, John and Mark grew as leaders and as friends. They learned that setbacks are inevitable, but they don't define the journey. How one responds to challenges, turning obstacles into opportunities, is what truly matters. The duo realized that every business, every dream, and every story has moments of struggle. It's the comeback that leaves a lasting legacy. From that first air mattress to a global brand facing its toughest trial, John and Mark proved one universal truth: courage, determination, and unwavering belief can turn even the darkest crises into triumphs. And in doing so, they became more than entrepreneurs. They became symbols of hope for anyone daring to dream against all odds. Years had passed since John and Mark first laid their heads on that single air mattress. From humble beginnings in a tiny apartment to a global brand recognized around the world, their journey had been extraordinary. But for them, success wasn't measured in numbers or fame, was measured in impact, growth, and the lives they touched along the way. Their brand had become more than a business, it was a story of possibility. Travelers didn't just book a stay. They joined a living example of courage, creativity, and perseverance. John and Mark frequently received letters and messages from people inspired by their journey: students, aspiring entrepreneurs, even people facing personal struggles. Each story reminded them of why they had started and why believing in oneself truly matters. But the legacy went deeper than inspiration. They had built systems and a culture that empowered employees, encouraged innovation, and emphasized kindness. Every team member, from cleaners to managers, was treated like part of a family. John and Mark had learned that a brand's strength lies not only in its idea, but in the people who carry that idea forward. They also gave back to the community. They launched programs to support young entrepreneurs with small loans, mentorship, and guidance, sharing the lessons they had learned through trial, failure, and persistence. For John and Mark, nothing felt more rewarding than seeing someone else succeed because they dared to take a chance. Looking back, they realized how far belief had carried them. That tiny spark of imagination and air mattress in a cramped apartment had ignited a journey that transformed lives, including their own. The hardships, the sleepless nights, the ridicule from friends and family, all of it had forged resilience, creativity, and unwavering determination. John and Mark's story became a symbol, proof that great ideas don't require perfect circumstances. All it takes is courage to start, persistence to continue, and belief that the impossible is possible. They had learned that setbacks are temporary, and that every failure holds a lesson. What defines a journey is not the obstacles, but how one rises above them. Today, they continue to innovate, expand, and inspire. Their global brand thrives not just because of smart business strategies, but because it carries a story of human resilience and courage. They remain humble, remembering the nights when a single air mattress and a shared dream were all they had. And so, the tale of two broke guys with a wild idea became timeless. It is a story for anyone who dreams, struggles, or doubts themselves. John and Mark showed the world that extraordinary journeys can start in the simplest ways, and that belief paired with action is the most powerful force of all. The air mattress may have been humble, but its legacy is monumental.
The story of John and Mark, two broke guys with one air mattress, teaches us more than just business success. It teaches lessons about belief, creativity, and resilience that anyone can apply, no matter their dream. Airbnb may have started as a tiny experiment, but the principles behind it are universal.
Airbnb began in a tiny apartment with a single mattress. It wasn't about having the perfect resources. It was about using what they had to create value. The lesson is clear. Don't wait for ideal conditions. Start with what you have and let your idea grow. Small steps can lead to massive impact. Rejection and doubt were constant companions for John and Mark. They were laughed at, ignored, and told their idea would never work. Yet, they persevered because they believed in their vision. Belief is powerful. It fuels persistence when circumstances are tough, and it allows creativity to flourish even under pressure. Every challenge was a lesson. Complaints from guests, operational issues, and unexpected crises weren't failures, they were opportunities to improve. John and Mark listened, learned, and adapted. The ability to pivot and refine your approach is essential in any business. Success isn't about perfection, it's about continuous improvement. What made Airbnb stand out wasn't just the mattress or the room, it was the experience. Personalized touches, attention to detail, and genuine care for guests transformed a simple stay into something memorable. The takeaway: in business, it's not just what you offer, but how you make people feel. When Airbnb faced public criticism, operational challenges, and financial pressure, John and Mark didn't give up. They addressed problems head-on, rebuilt trust, and innovated under pressure. Resilience is key. Obstacles aren't roadblocks there. Opportunities to grow stronger, smarter, and more determined. John and Mark didn't do it alone. They hired a team, delegated responsibilities, and built a culture of trust and innovation. Success is rarely achieved in isolation. Surround yourself with people who share your vision and values, and empower them to contribute. Airbnb became a global brand, but its legacy isn't just about revenue. It inspired countless entrepreneurs, transformed the travel industry, and demonstrated that bold ideas can change lives. True success comes when your work benefits others, not just yourself. From one air mattress to a worldwide phenomenon, Airbnb shows that courage, creativity, and belief can turn the simplest idea into something extraordinary. It reminds us that anyone with vision and determination can take a small step and leave a lasting mark on the world.
And so, the journey of two broke guys with one air mattress comes to an end, but the lessons last forever. From humble beginnings to a global brand, John and Mark showed us what's possible when belief meets action. They taught us to start small, but dream big, to embrace failure as a stepping stone, and to never let doubt stop us. They showed that creativity, resilience, and persistence can turn even the simplest idea into a worldwide success. Airbnb isn't just a story about business, it's a story about courage, friendship, and the power of believing in yourself. Every step, every struggle, every sleepless night was part of a journey that inspired millions. So, whether you're chasing a dream, building a business, or simply trying to take your first step, remember this: extraordinary journeys often start with the smallest ideas, and with determination, anything is possible. Your journey can start today. All it takes is one idea, one step, and the courage to believe.